In the late 90s, the enemy was Falun Gong, but they then killed them for their organs, and there was the Tibetans, which they've been targeting for a long time. And
well, now that they've run out of the Falun Gong organs, they go to the Uyghur.
Yeah, I mean, and actually, we had a guest on our show talking about how there's not a lot of Falun Gong practitioners in China anymore of a certain age group because so many of them have been killed for their organs, and now the Communist Party has just moved on to a new group to get new organs.
What do they use the organs for?
Transplants.
For transplants. I mean, yeah. I think
for the people they like, for party members,
or people who can pay for it.
It's commercial. Yeah. It's commercial. I mean, look, a human, a human heart could be retail for $100,000, $150,000. A set of lungs for $100,000. Dollars. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, so the value of a human life in China is very specific. It's about $450,000. That's how much a human being is worth on the black market of organ trade.
Well, not even black market, because the point that
is Chinese state-run hospitals. Mm-hmm. And so what's happening with the Uyghurs, we know about the concentration camps, right? We know about the how they're treating women and so on. But the thing that's not reported on very much is in Xinjiang, it is very likely that a lot of those people are being used as sort of a human organ bank. And when there's someone who wants an organ, they find a match from within that concentration camp system, and they will do a speedy match. And there's a lot of, I don't know if you want to go into it, but there's a lot of evidence to suggest that they are in fact using Uyghurs for that, and it's coordinated by the same system that is doing the labor camp. So it's all part of the party's plan. This is not some black market group or whatever doing it. It's a fully coordinated effort.
It's the way that they subsidize their medical system because the government is not paying for it anymore.
They're not paying for the medical system?
Well, it's really sort of socialized healthcare, but that's not really a very accurate way to describe it because it's very misleading. So, it's socialized medical care, but it's not very good. But also, the state isn't really giving it much money, and so it has to support itself through.
The hospitals kind of
they
on
need
their
to
own.
make their own money.
Hospitals need to make their own money, and one of the key ways they do that is through transplants.
So whenever we hear this argument that the United States is one of 3 countries without universal health care or something, China actually doesn't provide that kind of coverage for people?
Yeah, well, I mean, they purport to do so, but the problem is that you can go to a hospital. And that'll be provided, but you'll still have to pay for your own food in the hospital. You have to pay for your own nurses in the hospital. There's a lot of things about that system that don't work. You have to buy your own medicine.
It also depends on who you are and where you are.
And what kind of publicity there is going on. During COVID, there was a lot of the country is paying for the medical care of these people who are getting the coronavirus.
Anal swabs for everyone.
Yeah. Okay, that's different.
That was for Americans, actually.
Foreigners required it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to go?
You want to talk anal swab? Well, it's funny that, look, we can talk about China anal swabbing American diplomats or whatever, but we are talking about organ harvesting, which is a little bit worse, I would say.
Just a little worse.
A little bit, huh? Yeah. More like a lot of it worse.
But that system, the organ harvesting system, has been going on for a long time. And as I understand it, it really ramped up in the early 2000s because they had all these Falun Gong in prison. And so they're like, well, what are we going to do with all these people? And they're super healthy because they've been doing Qigong. So
wow.
You got healthy people. They don't drink or smoke. They're in good physical shape. Perfect. Wow. Yeah.
Ideally, you want them to be 28.
And they just, we're talking just billions of dollars. I mean, this is really about money.
You see that China did ramp up the construction of specialty hospitals designed specifically for organ transplants. And this is at a time when there is no organ donation system in the country.
Wow.
Yeah, there's, for a lot of cultural reasons and whatever, maybe in China, all across China, a few hundred people or at most a couple thousand people are volunteers, organ donors. And their system isn't even really functional in most parts of China. So the vast majority of organ transplants are from non-voluntary donors. And they're not even executing enough convicted criminals to account for the tens of thousands of transplants that are happening every year. And so these organs have to come from somewhere. And the reality is almost certainly that they're coming from one or more repressed groups. Falun Gong, probably the biggest. maybe Uyghurs, because there's not enough Falun Gong organs left. To some degree, Tibetans and house Christians, I think.
You mentioned that the Falun Gong are healthier. Is that similar for the Uyghur Muslims? They don't drink, things like that?
With the Uyghurs, it seems like there is a specific, they call it halal organ harvesting.
Right, for the customers in the Middle East?
Yeah, there seems to be a specific desire for that in those communities because they don't eat pork, they
don't drink.
Halal.
Right, and so that's why there's advertising for medical transplant tourism in the Middle East to come to China. And there's even at the airport in Urumqi, which is the main city in Xinjiang, a sort of like fast track organ line. You can Google it and find photos of this, just like to speed up anyone who's boarding a plane who's carrying organs. So they're attracting Middle Eastern customers they're very ethical customers who only want halal organs from Muslims.
Ethical?
Very ethical, because they want the halal organs. Yeah,
but
no,
then
it makes
perfect
sense.
Harvest the organs of this innocent Muslim as well.
It's unclear if the people getting the organs, how much they know. There's a certain degree of willing.
I don't know. I don't want to know.
Yeah, like it is not possible to order an organ.
You can't schedule it 2 weeks in advance, except in China you can though.
Wait. China, you can schedule?
You schedule it on a day, typically about 2 weeks, yeah.
Have you guys ever seen the movie The Island with...
yeah.
Who was in it? Was it...
Leonardo DiCaprio?
No.
It was
Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
And they're clones, so that when their non-clone counterpart in the real world needs an organ, they harvest the clone.
Yeah.
So it's like you could order... as a wealthy person, be like, I'm going to need that, heart in a few months. And they would be like, okay. And they would start prepping the clone for harvest.
Yeah.
I wonder, I'm not a Muslim, but I wonder what the actual scripture says or the teachings would say about being a Muslim and then going and then having a country that is subjugating Muslims, taking their organs. And then you as a Muslim are like, I'll take that organ. I can't imagine that's right in in their religion, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people within the same religions have been killing each other for centuries. So I mean, there's always that. But I think that the people who are going to get the organs, I think they typically aren't thinking about the source. They don't want to think about the source, and no one is helping them think about the source. And so it's just like, oh, I'm just going and getting a transplant, and it's
from a voluntary donor. That is what they will be told.
Yeah, they will be told it, and and they might have their suspicions, but they don't want to think. You don't want to let your mind go down that path.
Yeah,
right.
I guess when people are faced with death and need an organ, they'll believe whatever they have to believe to justify their existence.
I mean, but like also the Western, medical system is supporting this. And they don't have the excuse of the fact that they're facing life and death, because the Transplantation Society has willfully not looked into this and have been like we don't see anything wrong happening in China. And there's been a lot of brouhaha over China's done a lot of cutting edge organ transplants,
cutting edge.
Organ transplant research. A lot of the
bleeding edge research.
Yes, bleeding edge research. So, a lot of the new drugs that are coming out that make taking organs out of people easier, letting the organs survive longer outside the body. These things are all coming from China in the last decade or so, and it's because they're doing all of these transplants.
Yeah.
And
it's like a society that doesn't care at all about the individual.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah, no, it sums it up. And unfortunately, China is trying to draw medical and scientific talent from around the world because they have access to a lot of funding, state-backed funding, and there's often not the kind of moral restrictions holding them back. Like in the U.S., for better or for worse, you have all kinds of restrictions, like the stem cell research is a huge issue. None of those kind of moral dilemmas ever hold back the Chinese Communist Party. So like Shelley was saying, they're able to make these breakthroughs in organ transplant technology because they have willing live test experiments.
Willing.
Yeah, willing.
The Communist Party is willing to sacrifice them for the good of the party.
Yeah.
There was the guy who was talking about head transplants and how he had practiced it several times on.
Oh, yeah.
Head transplant, but they can't connect nerves or anything like that.
He was saying he was getting real close to being able to do that.
Wow.
Which is he was failing each time. But.
Yeah.
Oh my
Jeez,
God.
So
heck?
there's definitely a lot of really ghoulish things probably happening within the medical system of China.
What about Americans? If a rich American went there, had money, would they be like, whatever you say, sir, right away? Here's your kidney, good sir.
I'm sure in principle, I have no specific
There are
information
some
about
countries that have outlawed organ tourism to China because, like, Israel was one of the first countries to do it, actually. South Korea has now. Taiwan has, I think. There was a lot of tourism coming from, like, South Korea and Taiwan, Asia. So, like, once, like, this started to become known, and then, like, doctors in those regions started speaking up and being like, we should not do this. But, like, it's still a very under the radar issue in general.
Has the world always been this way? Or are we just in every possible conceivable iteration of a dystopian nightmare? Book burning, censorship, zealotry, communism, organ harvesting, organ tourism. It's like all of these stories, not just here in the US, but around the world. And it's like every single nightmarish dystopian novel has come into existence at the exact same time or around the same time.
It does make you think, like,
it's always been this way.
Well, it just shows like an inability for people as a whole to really stand up to these kinds of things. Or in very, very often what happens is they get manipulated by those in charge to go along with these kinds of things, to go along with the censorship, the book burning, the killing of, the group, the bad group that's hurting society. It's very easy to be manipulated, I guess.
That's the crazy thing, too, about, like, in the U.S., not to derail too much off of China's internal problems, but, they claimed Trump was demonizing migrants and Muslims. Well, they were demonizing American citizens. So we do see, regardless of which faction is trying to gain power, demagoguery and attacking a specific group seems to be the strong path to power.
Well, it's since you mentioned that, like Xi Jinping recently said the U.S. is the biggest threat to China's development, and imagine if Biden said that about China or any U.S. official.
I mean, I think Trump said things similar to that, right?
He got a little close.
But Biden's going to be like, come on, man, China, they're helping us out. They're good people,
He's a master diplomat.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.